Welcome to the Wingman Show. We are floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Commander Drew Brown. I have a wingman, my man, Dr. Paul Thompson. What's up, Brother Paul?
Hello, Mr. Drew. It's good to see you. It's a great day today. I hope we're going to have a good show, and I'm glad our listeners have tuned in and about to be educated.
Yeah, how about educating on this? How about Robert De Niro just had his seventh child at 79, and his oldest child is 51, like that. I'm not sure what you think about that. I'll tell you how I believe. I did some research. First of all, when you get that old, your sperm has less quality, and you can have some birth defects in the children when you're that old. So that's what the research shows. But more than that, there's a couple of studies that show, one, first of all, Robert De Niro is very wealthy, so his child will not be born into poverty. But to me, he won't have that father-son relationship as they kind of both grow up together, which I think is important. I had my children pretty young, so I was able to play ball with them, and I was actually to grow with my children. When you're an older person, that much older, that's grandparent age, you have so much wisdom and so much knowledge. I think it might actually hurt a child, is what they were saying, socially, because that child would be a little bit different than his peers because of the knowledge that he gets from home and maybe the social interaction he gets at home. I don't know about you, Dr. Paul. I just think that's too old. And the main reason is I would hate to lose my father at 10, 12, 14 years old.
Yeah, that's a tough one. He's 79. So, by the time the son turned 21, he would be 100.
100 years old.
100 years old. So you say grandparents, more like great-grandparent age. That's kind of a rough time. I don't think it's such a great. Yeah, as you get older, the chance of birth defects increase for males and females. They talk about females for the most part. Males have fertility till whenever. Remember, we did a story on that not too long ago on the oldest person to have a 90-year-old Mr. Pickles.
Oh, yeah, the tortoise.
Yeah, we'll show Mr. Pickles, but Mr. Pickles was a tortoise. So he may not have.
This is not Mr. Pickles.
Yeah, he doesn't have as many social challenges. But I think that's a bit old, and maybe that's a lot of ego that's there too.
Well, look at your age right now. How would you react with an infant?
Yes.
An infant. That's back to school. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, that's everything. It's like, wow, it's almost unimaginable, to be honest with you.
Well, what happens, Dr. Paul, is that I'm going to give you some famous people right here that actually have children at this age, okay? The first one would be Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger had his last child at 73 years old. You remember the old-time actor Charlie Chaplin?
Yes.
He was 73 years old. Then you have Clint Eastwood and Steve Martin and Rod Stewart. Rupert Murdoch even had a child in the 70s. The oldest one that I see here is a guy named Bernie Ecclestone, is the former Formula One CEO, had his fourth child when he was 89 years old, Dr. Paul. One thing is that when you're wealthy like that and older, you're going to have other people actually doing most of the raising, like nannies or butlers or people like that.
Yeah, they're doing the work. So I think that's that's just an interesting statistic that's not realistic for most of the world. It's hard enough to just raise any child, no matter what your station is. But people like that, the people you mentioned were still living or fabulously wealthy. And yeah, you can get people to do what I call all the grunt work, all the basic stuff. And you're just kind of sitting there like a king, so to speak. But that doesn't mirror real life.
That's true. And Dr. Paul, you realize you and I come from Harlem, New York. So we weren't raised with a bunch of money. There are a lot of people in this world that have money. And when a child is raised with a lot of money, he doesn't realize what being poor means. So having money means nothing to him because he doesn't realize what it feels like to not have. Yeah, so, a lot of us are saying, yeah, but he's so wealthy. Being wealthy, being raised wealthy means nothing. Actually, you really find out in life that money does not buy you happiness. Because it's easy for you and I to say, oh, maybe a little bit more money would buy us happiness. But I got to tell you something. Very wealthy people realize that that's not the truth, Dr. Paul.
Yeah, because you can see the levels of depression, some of the destructive behaviors some people have who seem to have everything, quote unquote. Yeah, they have all their bills paid and fancy cars. I marvel at some of these young people who have Ferraris and things at 16. I got my first car with help of a loan, after I was a commissioned officer in the Navy. That's when I saw my first car. I used one of that, and I'm was glad to have it.
I bought my first car when I was 16 years old for $150.
Wow.
And then when I went to college, because, my father was wealthy, Drew Bundini Brown, trainer Muhammad Ali, my daddy sent me, I'm not kidding either. He sent me $500 and told me to get good tires.
Okay. So it's $500 in good advice.
Yeah, well, at least I got the good tires. Anyway, how about this? Look at those badass jets behind us. I got an SR-71 super smoking badass Air Force spy plane behind me. You have an SR-71 with a parachute. What is that all about?
Yeah, that's a drag chute. That's your picture is a good picture. I like the picture, by the way. And that's an orange drag chute. These drag chutes to slow airplanes down. The airplane didn't have flaps, slats, speed brakes, spoilers, and all that stuff. It was basically clean. So it had a very high approach speed. So they would pop the chute upon landing to get the thing to stop. Yeah,
how fast did the SR-71 go?
I think it could go it was a Mach 3 plus 3.2, although there's a guy who said he flew one time at Mach 3.5, which is 3.5 times the speed of sound to evade a missile over Libya when you're doing a spying mission. Got to 3.5. It flies about 85,000 feet. They stopped flying them. They think they made about 30 of them, 32, and 12 of them crashed. None by combat, but just by accident. And NASA used them for a while. They retired them. There's supposed to be an SR-72 coming out at some point, and that's going to be a UAV, an unmanned aeronautical vehicle.
Oh, my goodness. And they had to wear spacesuits to pilots.
Yeah. Those guys did have spacesuits. This one will be a UAV, and it's supposed to be hypersonic. Go Mach 6 or so.
Wow.
So that's if they get it that way. When you go that fast, heat is a problem.
No doubt.
Yeah, if you have to use composite materials, because actually metal will start to melt. So,
well, all the people who listen to us on Apple Podcasts, why don't you watch us on YouTube also? We'll show these pictures. We got a lot of good pictures, and we really have and Dr. Paul is so good looking. You got to see him on YouTube. And if you go to YouTube, please give us a subscribe. We really appreciate that. And on Apple Podcasts, you can write us a review. We'd appreciate that also. One other thing. Our newsletter comes out every week at wingmenshow.com. That's wingmenshow.com. We have a frequent flow line, means you can ask Dr. Paul and Commander Drew any question you want, and we'll answer it on the program. No doubt about it. We'll pick one out and answer it.
Yes. Do give us, we appreciate it, particularly our YouTube viewers. A like helps us a lot, helps the algorithm, and brings us, a little more prominence. It's hard to get a positive message out these days. So if you could help us, we really appreciate it.
That's true. We are sponsored by Magic Mind. This is a great formula that Dr. Paul and I drink once every morning, and it causes less stress, and we actually get a little bit more production when we're drinking this stuff. That's Magic Mind. And if you'd like some, just go to magicmind.co, and you can put in the code word Wingman and get 40% off. And one other thing, Instagram. Follow us on Instagram. Dr. Paul, I just read that a doctor, this is amazing as far as futuristic medicine, a doctor just performed brain surgery on an embryo inside of a woman's womb. They actually did brain surgery on this baby that wasn't born yet. And the reason they did it was to prevent heart failure. Now, I want to get into the medical part, even though my son is a doctor. And I guess I got to always tell you, my daughter's a lawyer. No, but seriously, Do you realize the advances in medicine that we are now seeing and the advances in AI technology? They are coming so fast. We are getting into an entire new age, Dr. Paul. Brain surgery on an infant inside the womb?
Yeah, I mean, it's something, it sounds like something beyond science fiction, but it really happened at, I guess, the Boston Children's Hospital. It's amazing. I think the condition is a rare condition. It's called the vein of Galen malformation. I just read that, the vein Galen malformation. And I guess the baby has like a super high blood pressure between the brain, like it's a vein that goes from the brain to the heart. And the risk was that if they didn't take care, usually they take care of it after the baby is born, and they're trying to prevent a heart attack. It's kind of hard to visualize that, a heart attack in a baby, but to prevent a heart attack or a stroke or a number of other things. And by being able to do this before the child was born, apparently they took away all the risk. I think it's still experimental, but they said even after weeks, the baby is fine. It's developing. It's almost as though nothing happened, which is almost unbelievable.
It's miraculous, kind of, and the technology that we're using now. And I did that to lead us into this AI, artificial intelligence. They are now putting AI to scams. And these scams are getting really technical. They can do facial scams. They can show you your wife asking you for money on a FaceTime call and saying, I need it now. I need it now. They can have your grandchildren with their own voice on AI scams. So real quick on these scams, especially telephones, this is a couple of things the Federal Trade Commission said. Number one, if it's too urgent, it's too urgent. Nothing is that urgent that you have to do something with money right away. Mm-hmm. Okay. Number two, which is my rule, anything that's too good to be true is too good to be true. 100%. Like the prince in Africa who just needs $2,000 so he can let you have 10 million. That's just too good to be true. Another red flag is when people are really excited and they don't want you to tell anybody on the other side, saying it's private. So you really have to be very careful of these scams, especially with this artificial intelligence, because they're getting so smart. They actually can figure out the things that you like and the things that you know. And you start thinking that these people really do know you. It's very scary, Dr. Paul. And they are always targeting the elderly.
Yes. Yeah, that's probably where there's a deep vein of gold for them. Because younger people will see the scams and they have less money. So you go, where's the most money? The most money is with the older people. So those are the ones you want to go for. That could ignite another industry of people that train elderly people on how not to get ripped off. Give me an idea, a little business idea.
That's very true. Hey, how about this guy in DC? I love this one. This guy named Vaughn Smith. He actually can speak 24 languages, I think pretty fluently, and knows another 21. But here's the trip. MIT did a study on his brain. And this guy, Vaughn, he's just a carpet cleaner in Washington, D.C. The amazing thing is he didn't think he was smart, and he didn't validate his own self until MIT said that you're almost a genius. Then he started feeling good about himself. The reason I'm bringing this up is, do you really need somebody else to validate how good you are? Do you really need an institution to say that you're smart or that you're dumb? Because that's not true. You need to feel good about yourself within yourself. But this guy, Vaughn, 24 languages and still didn't think he was smart. What do you think about that, Dr. Paul?
Yeah, that's incredible. I have a cousin that speaks about 8 or 9 professionally.
Wow.
That's amazing. So you're taking that number and you're multiplying it by 4 or 5? That's incredible. That's incredible. Well, obviously, he's using more of his brain than most people, because it said we only use a small percentage of our brain. So he's just using more of it, more than likely.
That's true. 100%. What a smart guy, though. This is Teachers Appreciation Week. And you and I talk about education all the time because we realize that's the key to being successful. But Teachers Appreciation Week, you sent me a video of these kids fighting teachers because they took their phones away from them.
Yeah.
And you and I looked at this video and we talked about it. And we said, well, how crazy could this kid who would want to start fighting because of a telephone? Well, guess what? Their phones are not like our phones. Young people's phones are actually their connection to life. And they've dependent on their telephone so much that you're taking a part of their life away. And the analogy that you and I talked about is when we were flying for FedEx, a long time ago, before the computers were up and doing our schedules, we used to get paper schedules. We used to get a thick little booklet and we would fill out this. There would be hundreds of trips and we'd pick them from one to, no matter what your seniority was. If you were number 100, you'd pick out 100 lines. The point is, if you took one of those books from us, we would want to kill you because that was our thing with FedEx. We needed that. That was our lifeline to FedEx. Well, the problem with these phones are these kids, that's their lifeline. But you and I went to concerts recently and they took our phones. Matter of fact, they gave me a magnetic safety little sleeve to put it in. I put the phone in the sleeve, they locked it and gave it back to me and said, when you leave the concert, you can open up your phone. So I'm wondering if they could take your phones away in concerts that you're paying $100 to $1,000 for tickets for, why do kids need phones in schools at all?
Yeah, that's a good question because the phones are, like you said, it's a body part. And you gave the analogy with having the bid packs. Yeah, you're right. The bid pack was pretty important. That determined your life for at least a month or more. But even the phones are more than that. It's more of a, I guess it's almost like a human being. It's almost like a god to some of them. There's an overdependence on that. And some people say, well, what if there's an emergency? Well, yeah, those phones can be used for a lot of good things. At the same time, if you look at how distracting they are, how can you learn much in school? And I think this is part of the reason that a lot of metrics show that people are not as smart or they're learning less because they're so distracted. You're looking at this machine in your hand all the time. You're not concentrating on algebra or anything complex. How are you doing it? So look at the reading levels. Are reading levels going up or going down in say the major cities? From what I see, they're plummeting. They're not going down, they're plummeting. And the COVID epidemic has a lot to do with that. But the trend is that everybody's kind of playing games and doing nothing and wasting time, particularly in your young years.
Well, isn't it amazing? They have more information in their hand than we ever had. I remember my mother we bought those encyclopedias. Remember A through Z? Yes. And then every year they came out with a yearbook. That's how I had my knowledge. I had to go look up stuff. Right now, with that phone in your hand, you can do anything with that phone if you know how to search in Google well enough.
Yeah, it's like a 1,000 libraries or maybe 100,000 libraries in the palm of your hand. It's updated, by the second. So you can't.
And isn't that funny? You just said our kids are not getting smarter; they're getting dumber. Yet they have more information available to them.
Yeah, I think that's true for society in general because we have so much stuff. There are a lot of phone numbers that I would just know by heart from years and years. I hardly know any of them now. I have to look up because I've got so many contacts. So I have like 10 things in my head. Well, and I got like maybe 300. I don't know all those numbers. Why would I want to know them? So.
Well, you know what that brings us to? Perfect time for a Wingman PSA. From the 11 facts in life, this is fact number 8. Emit integrity. Don't lie, cheat, or steal. Emit integrity. Don't lie, cheat, or steal. That seems very basic, Dr. Paul, but these are the things that we need to teach our children from the beginning. These are the basics in life. And when I say emit integrity, that means it's like you emit integrity, Dr. Paul, to be honest with you. When I'm around you, I know that you're honest. You just have that feeling about you. And I think that that's a wonderful thing.
Right. I mean, that's the way to be. Be honest with yourself. Don't cheat. You talk about the phone. Sometimes those phones are used for a lot of cheating too, because it's so easy to do.
Well, somebody told me something about cheating. If you cheat on a math test and get 100, guess what? You're still stupid in math.
That's right. That's right. Oh
So
yeah.
you really don't have an A, and that's
I don't want you designing the load stresses on the bridge that I'm driving my car on.
That's 100%.
Or walking on. Anyway.
Well, you know what the state of Michigan just did? The state of Michigan is now expunging like 850,000 low-level crimes. In other words, they're wiping clean from the record nonviolent criminal offenses for people who have had low-level crime. And you and I were talking about this. Everybody, and I'm pretty sure everybody has done something wrong. Just some of us haven't gotten caught. Mm-hmm. I know myself. I can't lie. I mean, if I would have got caught doing some of the things I've done in my life, you never know what could have happened to me. But I didn't get caught, and they weren't that bad. The point is, some people did get caught, and I think everybody deserves a second chance. And I'm saying that because a prison debate team actually beat a Harvard debate team. You and I saw this article, and now Harvard wants a rematch. Point being that there are intelligent people behind bars right now because they did something stupid. One of our facts in life is common sense and moderation. Well, they broke that common sense and moderation, did something illegal, and now they're in trouble. I think everybody deserves a second chance, especially for something that's not violent or didn't hurt anybody else. What do you think, Doc?
Yeah, a number of states, I think it's about 10 to 12 of them, are looking at these things. If you have had like a, misdemeanor, non-violent, nothing heinous or bad, just something stupid that you didn't really hurt anybody. Yeah, they're going to expunge those records. And that'll help society in the sense that one of the challenges that ex-convicts have, there's a high recidivism rate. People go back into jail, commit another crime, and they go back. Well, a lot of them can't get jobs. Any kind of criminal record could be for something really, really minor, small. It might be maybe traffic tickets you just didn't pay or something. You said something to a judge and, behind bars for a day. Whatever, something goes on your record that's not going to affect society. And you can't get employment. What are you going to do? You're a male or female, you can't get any employment. You're an adult. What are you going to resort to? Where do things lead? Nowhere. So by giving them a chance to do something that they can do, it benefits everyone. Look at all the job postings that are out where they're looking for people to do this. I see help wanted signs all over the place where I didn't see them before. In big box stores, little places hiring. They may not be the most prestigious jobs, but for somebody getting out of jail or whatever that had no chance of doing anything, maybe an option. They may be good at it.
That's very true. Dr. Paul, on our newsletter, wingmanshow.com, we have a flow line. And what our frequent flyers are the people who listen to us all the time. And first of all, let me give you guys a shout out. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting Magic Mind, our sponsor. Thank you guys very much. Anybody new, welcome. Somebody wrote us, Dr. Paul, on the frequent flow line from New Orleans, where I went to school, matter of fact. And you know what they wrote? They said they want to start giving to a charity, especially their school, an HBCU, actually. But they don't want to get ripped off, and they don't mind giving money, but they don't want it to go to administration, and who else knows what charities go to. And so they asked us, what should they do? That's funny they should ask us, because I just started giving Southern University of New Orleans some money, and I went directly to the website for my college. So I know I'm giving it directly to the school. But there are a lot of ways to give charity. And the best charity, and I've always heard this, it's something I just didn't do. I told you I gave to Suno. Well, when you really give charity, you don't tell anybody what you're giving. You just do it from the goodness of your heart. And if you can't give to your college, then maybe you can buy somebody some groceries or just do something kind, because this is the God's honest truth. The more you give, the more you will receive. And I didn't know that for a long time, even though people told me that, but God's honest, it's the truth. The more you give, the more you get. Don't you think, Doc?
Yeah, I think so. In terms of giving the schools, places I've been at, affiliated with, they typically, have reached out, to me to give contributions. They typically do that. So, he doesn't want to go to administration. Maybe you can find a department in the school that needs something. That's kind of unusual to have problems with that. But yeah, there's going to be administrative costs. But I would say, look at the school administration, find out how to give. Most institutions have a robust alumni program, and they want you to give, they want you to put the school in their will, in your will. So that shouldn't be very difficult at all.
No, that shouldn't be at all. But I'm telling you, when you give, you feel better. It's amazing all the stuff you learn when you grow up. I'll tell you that. Dr. Paul, for our wingmen this week, what an amazing thing. And we both saw it on video. And for our YouTube watchers, I will put pictures of this happening. But there was this homeless man hanging out by a car wash, just hanging out. And all of a sudden, he becomes a life-saving hero. This woman got out of her car with her baby. I think she was the great aunt. Anyway, she takes the baby out in the stroller, puts the baby in the stroller, and all of a sudden the wind takes the stroller. The lady rushes to go grab the stroller and falls flat on her face. She gets up to try to do it again, falls flat on her face again, and this stroller is rolling straight towards the traffic. And it's a 3-lane highway, and these cars are zooming by, and all of a sudden in the frame, you see this man like an angel catch that stroller and stop it from going into the highway. The guy's name is Ron Nessman. And in the beginning, I told you he was homeless. Well, here's a homeless man who just saved a life. Dr. Paul, that's a wingman. And that's a wingman straight from the sky, because he had no idea why he was standing there, for what reason. And the very first thing he saw was a baby carriage headed towards a highway. And my man, Ron Nessman, what a wingman to save this baby.
Yeah, it's quite a video. The right person at the right time, right place, just sprung into action, no hesitation, just did what was natural, and was a hero without wanting to be a hero, just doing a natural thing. So good things do happen. Sometimes, if you look at the news, it's very depressing, and it seems like the world's going bad and everybody is bad. But everybody's not bad. They're not bad. They're good things. We're just focused on the negative too much, and I'll admit some guilt to that. But there are good things out there, and this guy was someone that stepped up, did what he needed to do, saved a life, and maybe preserved the lives of many people to come.
Yes, I mean, what we do here at this show is we take negatives and make positives. We were talking about the phone fights with students and teachers. That wasn't the point. The point was, what do we do about phones with our children? So we take negatives and we make them positives. Usually we start off the show with a quote, but I would like to end the show with a quote this time. And the quote is, "My body and soul are on a continuous journey of health and happiness. My actions determine the course of that path." And the number one word with that was action, because you can think, you can wonder, you can hope, you can pray. It's your actions that count. Dr. Paul, whatever's beautiful, whatever's meaningful, and for you and all the listeners out there, whatever makes you guys happy, may you have it today and forever. Dr. Paul, I pray for peace.
I pray for peace, and I pray for peace in the lives of those who listen to our podcast, like and subscribe and share our message. Please look at us on YouTube and stand by for more episodes.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com. WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, all together, wingmanshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth and goodwill towards all men and women.